Hands Off Our Energy is a town hall that was put on by the Marietta 912 Project, who are behind me right now. This grassroots organization came together to form this group to educate, evaluate, and motivate. And we have heard, and you will hear on this video, the truth about fracking of oil, Marcellus Shale, and more than that, you will hear about coal and the intentional destruction of our energy and destroying our very economy right here in Ohio and 10 other major states. The Obama administration stated before the election, if you build a coal-powered generator, I will shut it down. You will see on this video truth, and at the end there will be an action plan that you will be responsible for doing. Show this at every opportunity. Do not just watch it, but do something about it. This is your problem. It is your time. It is ready. It is now for you to stand up and make a change. Enjoy the video, but take action.
Our next speaker will be Mr. Jerry James. Jerry's a local individual from Marietta. He is the president of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association and Artex Oil Company.
See if I'm on. Am I on? Thank you. I may stand here so I can see my slides a little easier. He mentioned I'm from Artex Oil Company. I'm from Marietta, Ohio, so unlike the other two gentlemen, I cannot be considered an expert because you have to be more than 50 miles from home. But I wanted to thank the 912 group for inviting us from the Ohio Oil and Gas Association to speak. I first want to congratulate you guys. I've seen your signs up here. You guys are truly patriots. You really are. You really are. You know, I looked up the definition of patriot before I came here. It's one who loves, supports, and defends his country. Anybody would come out in a storm like we had tonight to hear about energy. I really admire you. Well, I once heard that if you can remember 3 points from a talk, you will be a genius. Well, you're never going to be a genius, listen to me, but I'm going to try to get across 3 points from you tonight. It's a little more high level than the last talk, but I think they dovetail very closely. And that is why you should care about energy production at all. 2, what's happening new in the oil and gas business, because some big things are happening. And 3 is what do I hear about all this that the oil and gas industry is going to pollute my groundwater. It makes the paper and makes even Hollywood movies. Well, first, why should you care about the oil and gas business? I had a client one time who told me, what's the WIFMs? And I said, what's a WIFM? He said, what's in it for me? So why should you really care about the energy business? I can tell you this because the energy business is one of the largest, if not the largest businesses in the world, bar none. No offense to anybody that works in any other business, but that's critical. Because if government policy screws up the energy business, then all other industries are going to suffer, and that's what you're starting to see here with the last speaker. The other thing about it is the energy business is the basic input for all other industries. If you really think about it, all other industries use energy. We in the oil and gas industry are the basic supplier of products for all other industries. There are 5,000 products made from oil and gas. The other thing to always keep in mind is the last century was always called the American century. And not taking it away from all of us in the room or our parents or everything, we've all done a great job. But the other reason it was the American century is we discovered how to use and harness energy like demand had never done before. And we were powered by affordable energy. That policy is starting to change, and that's what the real concern should be, everybody here tonight, is what will be the future if they change that policy, and they're changing it. High energy prices lead to economic downturns. High energy prices lead to economic downturns. There have been 6 recessions in the last 38 years. And if you'll go to the next slide, I'm going to show you something that most people may never realize. Okay, the gray, that's shaded gray on that graph, starting from 1974, every time you see a gray vertical bar, that's a recession. The red line, the top line, is got the units on the side. That's the price of oil. The blue line was the actual price, and economists love to do this. They go, well, let's put it all in the same terms. So in other words, if you were buying oil today, what would you paid back in 1974? Well, you might have paid something in the mid-30s, but actually today that would almost be close to $100 a barrel. So they do that. Now what's important about this, I'm going to take you through, this is your life. When I look around the people in this room, the majority of the people in this room, there's a few young people in here, but have lived each one of these recessions. I'm going to show you something you may have never realized before. We start out the first recession where oil prices spike is 1974. What caused that, if you remember your history, was in the fall of 73, you have the Yom Kippur War between the Arabs and Israel. The United States supported Israel. The United States got caught with their ships in the harbor when they were unloading tanks to give to Israel because they didn't get out there in the cover of darkness. The Israelis got mad. OPEC shut the oil off. Suddenly we seen oil go from $4 a barrel to $14 a barrel, and it just kept right on climbing. That's right when I started to drive. That's why I'm standing here tonight. I'm a petroleum engineer because I came down here from Zanesville, Ohio to Marietta College because you could get a job in petroleum engineering, and that's what led me here tonight. That's the first price spike. The next price spike is 1979 going into 80, going into the early 80s. That, if you remember, was when the Shah of Iran came here to get treated for cancer and died, and Khomeini takes over. Then the second largest producer of oil in the world, Iran, dropped out of production. The price spikes immediately up to almost $100 a barrel. And those of you who lived around Marietta, Ohio, remember how many oil and gas rigs there were drilling in Marietta, Ohio. Marietta, Ohio even made the Wall Street Journal because of oil and gas production. Look at the next thing that happens. We don't have another recession until the early 1990s. Remember what happened in the early 1990s? Iraq invades Kuwait. Price of oil spikes as a result because Kuwait was a major oil producer. We have another recession. We don't have another recession until the early 2000s. What caused that is suddenly the Far East became a huge consumer of products, China. We never used to think of China coming in and using products. Now we know about China using products, and one of them was oil. Once they pumped up the demand for oil, the price went up. We experienced another recession. We have another one in 2008. I always blame this one on the bankers. I always tell my bankers, thank God you guys will take the criticism for one. But what really caused it, people were not even speculating in mortgage-backed securities. They were speculating in futures products, and one of those is oil. Look when the price of oil spikes, look at the red line going up, another recession. So what we learned from going through all these is that if you increase energy prices, you will have a bad economic times. As a matter of fact, as you'll see the graph, they exactly correlate. All the recessions we've experienced in the last almost 40 years were caused by a spike in energy prices. So you really think through when you're listening to these other speakers tonight. The other thing I'll show you for you political types in town, I'll show you something. Every time we have a recession, the party in power loses the presidency. 1974, 75. I take it nobody voted for Hope and Change. 1974, 75, Richard Nixon is forced out of office. It wasn't only Watergate, it was a recession going on. He's forced out. Gerald Ford takes over. Gerald Ford loses to Jimmy Carter in 76. 79 and 80, Jimmy Carter loses to, thank God, Ronald Reagan. And so Ronald Reagan takes over. Party in power changes hands. Again, Republicans maintained control until 1991. Now everybody in the room can remember this. Bill Clinton said it was the worst economic times in history. I don't know where he was in 1974 in Zanesville, Ohio, where I grew up, because it made that recession look like child's play. But George H.W. Bush loses the presidency to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton maintains the presidency until 2000. Energy prices are again spiking, and George W. Bush barely beats out Al Gore. We go up until 2008, Barack Obama wins. So when you think about it, it is so significant when the price of energy changes that it even affects who's been the president and what party's won the presidency for the last 40 years. Now I'm going to tell you something. You didn't vote for Hope and Change, but he agrees with this. I'll tell you how you know he agrees. Because he just released oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Now, the reason he released oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is the oil markets are well supplied. Matter of fact, we've done such a great job in America, I'm going to talk about in a minute. We've got oil production up to the highest it's been in 35 years. But He knows he's worried about another one of those bars appearing in 2012 because he knows that's when you lose the presidency. So he talked the rest of the leaders of the free world, even though the oil markets are well supplied, to release oil for strategic petroleum reserve to try to drive the price down to prevent another recession. I call this Operation Enduring Obama. Well, we've talked about one thing. Because high energy prices cause recessions, this is critical. Whether you're listening to the last speaker, or Mr. Murray, it's coming up, is government policy should not be geared to drive energy prices up. Government policy should not be geared to drive government prices up, and that's where everything's headed. We talked a little bit then about how energy policies and why you should care about them, because if high energy prices cause recession. The next thing is what's happening in the oil and gas industry. I'm going to start around one of my engineers, Matt Lapartis is here with me tonight, Chad Spence, another one of my people that works with me. He's got a copy of something, he's got a piece of rock he's going to hand around so you can get a chance to see it. What a free market really does work, and good old American know-how has came through again. While everybody's been talking about wind and solar, and if you can go to the next slide. Well, everybody's been talking about wind and solar, and that's everything, the news media. There has actually been just a revolution going on, something revolutionary going on in the oil and gas industry that rarely gets reported except for the negatives. And I'm going to read you just a few of these quotes, and this is a real game changer. It says, new technologies to extract gas from shale rock, which is what he's going to pass around, have altered the U.S. energy outlook for the next 100 years. That's from Tony Hayward, former chief executive of BP. That was right before he had the oil spill in 2010 at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. Shell's chief executive says, we underestimate what it could do to the world in the next 10 to 20 years. Daniel Yergin, chairman of Cambridge Energy Research Institute, this is a famous research energy institute, said, the industry began to pay attention to unconventional gas in 2007, but the broader public only took notice in late 2009. The biggest development of the first decade of the 21st century is not solar, not wind, but unconventional gas. How well has this worked? This has worked so well that the price of natural gas is down 75% from its peak in 2008. Now, as a natural gas producer, that's not much fun. From you people in the public, when you just heard what they're doing to electricity rates, can you imagine a product going down 75%? It proves the good old American know-how comes through again. Well, what was the game changer that did this? It was really a combination of three technologies that we've had for a while and we've been evolving, and they all came together at once. And I got to tell you something if you don't realize, a little plug for Marietta College, a little plug for petroleum engineers, and a little plug for America, is the American oil and gas business is one of the quintessential businesses in the world. If all the Americans died tomorrow, the world would run out of oil in a very short amount of time. This is a business that we invented, we dominate, and we're the creative ones. And I'm going to go through the three changes because you hear a lot about this and the left hates these. You go to the next slide. Oh, I want to make one point here before we go back. Go back to that last slide if you would. For our last speaker, he mentioned that wind and solar, you're going to start paying for that almost like 12.5% of your bill, 25% alternatives. You always hear the president always say, we're going to create these green jobs and we're going to have wind and solar and everything like that. Well, they always build the wind and solar farms right next to the fabled unicorn farms. So if you're ever looking for them, that's where we're at. Because I'm going to show you something no one ever tells you. Well, what does, and listen to the next speaker, talks about coal. What does wind and solar cost? That if you look across the bar at the bottom, what they're showing you is price. That's actually across the top. And in those words tell you what is the cost of generating electricity from those different sources. If you look at natural gas and coal, they do a real good job. You look at onshore wind, and it's almost twice as expensive. And I'm here to tell you, places you can generate onshore wind are as rare as big oil fields. That cannot work everywhere in the United States. Some places it works great. The next thing, look at solar. Look at solar and look how expensive solar is. Now think about that. They're going to build a solar farm in Noble County, Ohio. Look how expensive it is. And that was where it works. Now how much have we seen the sun in southeastern Ohio in the last 6 months? I wasn't sure it still existed. So this is, your last speaker told you, this is something to worry about. Because remember, my first part of my speech was, I told you, high energy prices cause what? Recessions. What's that look like to you? High energy prices, doesn't it? And so you need to really think about that. Well, I'm going to go on to now what's the change in the oil and gas industry. Go ahead, next slide. The first thing is seismic operations, 3D seismic operations. What that is that's where you lay a grid of receivers out across the ground, You have like a tiny either vibrator or a tiny explosion. It bounces sound waves back up through the ground, and they come back, and you can create a map of the subsurface. Sam Cooke, before he passed away, and I were talking about this, and Sam Cooke was a fascinating guy, and I'll tell you something about you never knew about him. Sam Cooke's degree was in geology. I never knew this, but he was part of the greatest generation. He graduated from college, and he just tried to get a job when he graduated. I know the feeling. But he also, in World War II, Sam Cooke was a forward artillery observer. And how the technology of seismic came about was the forward artillery observers would put these geophones out, and when the cannons of, like say, the Germans went off, they could then tell where the German guns were at and know where to return fire. Well, by doing that, they reverse engineered it after the war and found out you could tell what rocks were underneath the ground. So what we're trying to do, go to the next slide, is bounce the sound waves down through the ground and then have it hit a layer of rock and bounce back. And if you've ever seen a topographic map of the surface, you know how it is, you can see the rivers and you can see the hills and everything on a topographic map. We are doing the exact same thing with 3D seismic. We're imaging topographic maps of the subsurface. Matt Laporte is my engineer over there, and two other guys we have work. That's what they work on full time. And this has radically changed the oil and gas business, because for the first time we can maybe see what's down there before we drill. The next thing that came along, next slide, was horizontal drilling. Now this is a radical change if you've never heard this. On your left you see a conventional well. It goes straight down and targets a sand, and we in southeastern Ohio, we're the birthplace of the oil industries here. If you never knew it, Ohio was the leading producer of oil in the last 1800s. If you think Marietta's a beautiful town, you have to understand Marietta was built with oil field money, if you ever look at the history of so many of the beautiful homes down there. So we drilled down, tapped the sandstones. That's what my great-grandfather did. And they tapped the sandstones, and the reason is sandstones have little void spaces in them, and that contains the oil and gas. Well, the oil and gas wasn't created in the sand. It was actually created in a black organic shale, that rock that's handed around to you. Well, a black organic shale is the line that you see at the bottom. Suddenly, somebody got the idea, well, if we're running out of sand, because we're depleting the shallow sandstone production, let's go to where it came from, in other words, where it originated. Because what makes it black organic shale is that's where all the dead critters died. Just like coal's black, shales are black because that's where everything went and died. So what they did was they drilled down to the shale, and they took years to develop this, and they realized when they drilled through it vertically, like the well on the left and fractured it, that didn't work. So somebody had the idea, let's do like field tile. Let's go down, we'll turn that drill string on a 90-degree angle, and we will go out 90 degrees and lay like a big field tile, maybe a mile long. Go to the next slide. So you can see that right there. The well comes down, makes a 90-degree bend, goes out sideways. Dramatically different. Now you're going to do the next technology that we combined, hydraulic fracturing. Hydraulic fracturing has been around the United States a long time, but what they realized when you see the shale being handed around to you, that stuff is really tight rock. I mean, it's like caked mud. That's what shales are, is caked mud. And so they realized they had to do all these fracture treatments. So this one only shows 3 in the picture, but they'll sometimes frack that thing as many 20 stages. So they'll go out and frack, go a couple hundred feet, frack it again. And by doing that and breaking the rock down and pumping water and sand, then you can collect the oil and gas that's trapped in that rock and bring it to produce it. This is one of these things, I'm here to tell you, that this is the kind of stuff we used to celebrate in the United States. This is like Edison discovering the light bulb. I mean, this is just huge. Why haven't you read anything about Edison discovering the light bulb? Because it goes to the next problem. Is there are those who don't like Edison discovering the light bulb. Matter of fact, after 125 years, we're getting rid of the light bulb, right? And so the left hates this technology, which goes to the third point I wanted to make for you. And that is, if any of you read the paper, or if any of you actually read the letters to the editor by the Sierra Club, or sometimes the AP articles that are in the Marietta Times, you notice they're against hydraulic fracturing. And they always call it this new technique called hydraulic fracturing. They always say that, and they always say it, called it toxic soup of toxic chemicals. Well, what really is hydraulic fracturing? First, it's not new. We actually invented hydraulic fracturing in the United States over 60 years ago. In the last 60 years, we've pumped 1 million fracturing treatments. State of Ohio pumped its first hydraulic fracturing treatment in the early 1950s. We've pumped 60,000 hydraulic fracturing treatments in Ohio. We wouldn't have oil and gas production if we didn't have hydraulic fracturing. In addition to that, the point often says, though, people say, and I've even had people work for me, they say, well, I've seen that Gaslands movie. Any of you guys see the Gaslands movie? I refuse to watch it. Well, this is quite a conservative crowd. There's only a few. But basically, the Gasland movies have some real dramatic footage in there. And one of the things they always show is, they always show this guy lighting his faucet. Now, that's pretty dramatic, right? Lighting your faucet. But the guy that did the movie was told before he did it by the environmental agency in Colorado, where he got that picture from, that the guy's grandpa could light his faucet before there was ever any oil and gas wells drilled. And that's not oil and gas from the deeper horizons. That's what's called biogenic gas, like landfill gas. In other words, in Colorado, they actually have water aquifers that refeed from the mountains, brings in bacteria. Bacteria, when it decays, creates natural gas. And that's what that natural gas is. Makes dramatic footage. Matter of fact, Hollywood nominated the movie for an Oscar. That's how much they liked it. So this is what we're trying to battle. But I always go to this with people is, I'll read you a quote, because people always say, well, how many babies have you killed today? We've literally had our people stand up and that question was asked from the audience. How many babies have you killed today? Well, how many people have we killed in the last 60 years? How many people have we made sick in the last 60 years? I'll read you a quote. It says, I'm not aware of any case where the fracturing process itself has affected water. I'm not aware of any proven case where the fracturing system itself has affected water. Well, who said that? Did Jerry James, the president of the Ohio and Gas Association, say that? Maybe the president of Exxon said that. No, go to the next slide. At the end of May 2011, Lisa P. Jackson, the administrator of the United States EPA, no friend of this industry or the coal industry, told the United States Congress that there were no proven cases of water contamination from the fracturing process. But this is where we're at today in America. Facts don't matter. Facts don't matter. If you don't think facts don't matter, and I'm just kind of sitting up here scaring you to death, the state of New York has already banned hydraulic fracturing treatments, even though New York has been using them for decades. Last month, I was up in Columbus, and a Democrat senator from Northern Ohio put an amendment on the floor to try to ban hydraulic fracturing treatments in the state of Ohio. And just last week, the city of Athens, you could guess it would be the city of Athens, couldn't you? Even though there's no hydraulic fracturing treatments planned for the city of Athens, proposed an amendment to ban hydraulic fracturing. Keep in mind that that's against the Constitution in the state of Ohio for them to do that, but don't bother them with facts. So this shows you the seriousness of what's going on. This energy problem, I'm here to tell you folks, is a serious issue. This country was built with affordable energy, and we're moving away from that. So there's really the three things I want you to remember is if you create high energy prices, you will have a very bad economy. And we're on the road of every piece of government regulation out there is designed to create high energy prices. Secondly, there's been a game changer in the oil and gas industry, a significant game changer. We produced the most natural gas in the United States last year that we've ever produced. You didn't hear that in the news media, did you? We produced the most we've ever produced. Oil production is up for the first time since I entered the oil and gas industry. You can tell by my gray hair, that's been a long time. For the first time in 35 years, oil production in this country was up significantly. So that's what a game changer this is. All these are in jeopardy because there are those who want to drive your energy prices up. I appreciate your time.
If you would like more information on the Hands Off Our Energy Action Plan, please go to MariettaOH9-12project.com. We will be posting the latest information, contact information, and a detailed plan of action for you to engage and stand with other like-minded citizens. Please check this site regularly for updates. Thank you.
The coal plants start to close down.
When President Obama ran for the presidency, he said, you can build a coal plant in America, but we're going to bankrupt you. Biden said, no coal in America. What they have done to date, by the latest study that just came out by the National Economic Research Associates, are going to cost America 1,440,000 jobs by 2020. Just out, independent agency, going to raise electric rates in this country $184 billion through 2020, Glenn. 1.44 million jobs, $184 billion increase in electric rates, which is a staple of life. But to me, sir, that's the national issue. It's bad enough. It's also a human issue to me. I live with our miners. These jobs I created from scratch. There's only 3,100 of them, but the universities say those mining jobs yield 37,000 jobs nationally due to the secondary jobs created for the goods and benefits. Sir, these people want to work in honor and dignity, and they're being denied that by Obama and his out-of-control regulatory agencies and policies. Sir, this isn't the America that I've known and have cherished. For them and their families to be denied their lives and livelihoods and jobs for these policies that are going to accomplish nothing. One more thing, sir. Exports of coal from America are at record levels. He has denied the American utilities the ability to use this coal, so we're exporting it to countries that are building power plants every day. China, a new 500 megawatt power plant every week. What they are doing is using the low-cost electricity because it costs 4 cents a kilowatt hour compared to 22 cents for solar, 9 to 10 cents for gas, and of course solar and wind have $24 a kilowatt hour in subsidies from you, sir, the taxpayer. So what he's done is he has exported that low-cost coal. They have the low-cost generation. The jobs have been exported to the foreign countries. Our people are unemployed, and it is insanity.
Is there anybody here that can explain it and give somebody the benefit of the doubt? I see this, quite honestly, America, I apologize, but I see this only as one, I mean, you're trying to cripple business and the country, and you're trying to fundamentally transform. When we come back, Jack, you say you can give him the benefit of the doubt and show another path to this? We'll go there next.
And when it comes to the energy policy, the obvious is that the people who are in political powerful positions are making policy to benefit themselves, not to benefit us.
So, Bob, then what do we do? You're in the coal
There's a simple solution, Glenn, and that is every American, every one of your viewers, must get to their congressman, their senator immediately, and get the legislative branch to stop the insanity that is coming out of the Obama administration.
How many people here who are businessmen or businesswomen, how many say, I'm afraid that I'm going to spend most of my time trying to fight the government for these jobs more than anything else?
I already am. Already am. More than half of my time, I'm fighting my own government and the Obama administration.
America, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Stand together. Use common sense. From New York, good night, America.
All right, welcome back. Energy prices are running up, and the Obama administration is clamping down. The Federal Trade Commission is looking into whether oil companies, refiners, traders have somehow manipulated the markets. My next guest says this is essentially a White House witch hunt that's going to hurt the jobs market and waste a lot of time. Bob Murray is the founder of Murray Energy. It's a huge independent coal mining company, and Bob sometimes speaks his mind. We'll see if he does tonight. Robert, good to see you.
It's good to see you, Neil, and thank you for having me.
So you think this is just a big old deflection?
I am frightened. I am very frightened about what Barack Obama and his followers, the appointees, that are heading up his departments at Interior, Labor, and particularly Environmental Protection Agency are doing to this country and to the lives and livelihoods of my employees, Neil. I am extremely concerned.
Well, how would it hurt a guy as big in coal, what they're doing now? What, are they just making it next to impossible to do what you do, to expand what you do? What?
They have made it so that our electric utility customers cannot burn our coal. Even though coal makes electricity at 4 cents per kilowatt hour.
And it's a lot cleaner than it used to be, right?
It is. In fact, the air in the last 50 years is 57%, or the last 30 years, 57% cleaner than it ever was. But our coal is 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Natural gas is triple that. So is wind. And solar is 4.5 times the cost. Depends on $24 a kilowatt hour in subsidies, both wind and solar.
The bottom line, we have a lot of coal here.
Yes, we do.
And so what I've always raised, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Bob. I've always said, all right, even if you don't like coal, and even if a guy like you isn't a big fan of solar and its checkered history of success, I'm saying have it everything. Explore everything, but don't deny the coal guys, don't deny the nat gas guys, don't deny the fossil fuel, the oil guys. Just have at everything, and they won't.
I agree with you. We need all forms of energy in this country, all of them. But what we have are groups that are wanting subsidies or advantages, wind, solar, biomass, over fuel made from fossil fuels.
Right, right.
And we shouldn't be doing that because we need to let the marketplace decide what electricity we're going to burn. Electricity is a staple of life. Low-cost electricity is absolutely essential for our jobs to compete in the global marketplace. But more importantly, I grew up poor, Neil. My father was paralyzed for 21 years. And the poor people in this country and people on fixed incomes are going to be hurt most by the insane policies of Barack Obama. He said, you can build your coal plants in the United States, but I'll bankrupt you. And that's what he's doing. But what is he doing? Study just came out. National Economic Research Associates, independent firm. 1,440,000 jobs will be lost in this country in the next 8 years to 2020. Just came out. Electric costs will rise $184 billion.
But if, let's say the electric costs do rise, and let's say this Chevy Volt, have you seen this car you plug in?
Yes.
Dumbest thing I've ever seen. But nevertheless, if it succeeds, and utilities benefit, and coal-powered utilities are the ones that benefit, you're going to benefit. You should go along with this, right?
Neil, yes. But remember, it's coal-fired electricity that's generating 50% of this electricity for our whole country. Here's the insane part of it.
No, I understand. But what I'm saying is, if it's going to lift the boat for everybody, that's their argument. I know you disagree with that. Then, hey, go along.
Well, I go along. We need all forms of energy. But here's what's happening. Exports of coal in the United States are at record levels. Obama is destroying our ability to find markets for our coal and our ability to get permits.
So you can't even do it here. It's tough enough here, and now when you want to expand abroad, they won't let you do that.
The insane part is, Neil, we're exporting that coal to foreign countries who are, China is building a new coal-fired power plant every week, 500 megawatts. India, Brazil, other countries are doing the same thing. They're going to have the low-cost electricity, while he forces us to go to exotic ways of generating electricity in the United States that are multiple times more expensive. So what he has done is exporting jobs to the foreign countries. They'll make the products that we should have been making.
Well, then the flip side of that is the situation for jobs worsens here. Our energy picture gets worse here. But what if there's a method to that perceived madness? And by that I mean, Bob, he looks at higher gasoline prices, for example, leading people to all these other technologies that are promising. When the chairman of GM comes out and says, I think gasoline taxes should go up another $1 a gallon. Obviously,
yes,
he's at the government's behest doing that. But that's their goal.
It is. And that's how they drive fossil fuels out of business. At least that's how they want to do it. You're talking about a crony capitalism when you're talking General Motors or General Electric. One of the things that in this country that is so bad that people don't understand are the Exelons, the utility company, General Electric, Johnson & Johnson, the big three motors. They're in bed, called crony capitalism, with Obama to create regulations to drive this product up and to sell products.
But environmentalists have never loved the coal industry. They've never loved the fossil fuel industry. And they have a friend in the White House. And isn't that what's really going on here? Nothing you have said in the past. You've been very direct and blunt talking about this in the past. But the administration doesn't like guys like you.
It takes jobs to have a standard of living in America. My employees in the coal industry, all 3,100, I created those jobs from scratch. I'm spending half of my time now trying to keep those jobs against the Obama administration.
Well, do any of the Republican candidates so far, Bob, intrigue you?
Yes.
Anyone in particular?
No. I'm still looking. I haven't really seen one that is outstanding. But back to my point, sir. My employees just want to work in honor and dignity. People on fixed incomes need low-cost electricity. It's a staple of life. People who make a product for the global marketplace need low-cost electricity. He's destroying that. Electric rates are going to go up 12 to 24% between now and...
Well, they have been hopping. You think they're going to hop a lot more?
Yeah, yes, I do, because the auction of the eastern markets that just was held took a power capacity from $26 a megawatt day to $128.
It gets worse.
$128 a megawatt day.
Anything you said here tonight will forever get you off the White House Christmas party invite list.
It definitely.
You already are off it, I assume.
I certainly am.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. I don't mean to interrupt you. We want to update you that the protesters are now heading home in Athens, Greece.
If you would like more information on the Hands Off Our Energy Action Plan, please go to MariettaOH9-12project.com. We will be posting the latest information, contact information, and a detailed plan of action for you to engage and stand with other like-minded citizens. Please check this site regularly for updates. Thank you.